Hello, Scrufftards, and welcome back to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And I figured I would take another look at the Avdiivka front line now, the 21st of April, since I've gone beyond midnight. And yeah, I did a video on this the other night, but things have progressed since then in the last couple of days, and Russia has made some gains. So let's take a look what's going on. And there we go. Yeah, I'm recording this on the 21st, but I started making the graphics stuff on the 20th. Anyway, so what has happened in the last 48, 72 hours? Well, Russia has made a big push here towards Ocheretune. Uh, they were on the outskirts of this small village here, and I thought that Ukraine would be able to hold this for at least a month or so, kind of like they did with Stepove. But that has not happened. Russia has put in a massive effort in grabbing this small village, and they are now pushed on and are actually in the outskirts of Ocheretune, fighting in some warehouses right here. And you may wonder, is this significant? Yes, this is very significant because I've said, even when the fighting for Avdiivka was still going on and Russia was trying to push this way, so even back then, months back, I said that if Russia can grab this small village, then they will be able to cut the supply lines to Berdichi, these supply lines, and they would be able to threaten, obviously, Ocheretune, which has a big rail station that allows Ukraine to bring in supplies to support Avdiivka. Now, and that is why Russia is doing this once again. They are still trying to push to Ocheretune to cut supplies to Berdichi and to secure the railroad and the train station so that Ukraine will have more trouble supporting this entire front line. And as you can see, here we have Ocheretune, the supplies coming in by train. They unload at Ocheretune and then they can ship them down along the road. Russia has now effectively prevented that from happening. So that leaves Ukraine with bringing in supplies through this way and this way. And even down here, I'm not sure how viable this option is, but definitely they're coming in this way and this way. So Russia has effectively cut off Berdichi from supplies. This town will fall in short order, I'm afraid. That's my prediction. And that will open up for Russia to keep on pushing this way to threaten the supplies reaching Semenivka. And here we go. And yeah, so Ocheretune, even if it's still in Ukrainian control, it will not uh, be able to support the front line. So Ukraine is stuck with bringing in supplies and troops to either Progress or more than likely Salane. I talked about this months ago uh, as Russia was trying to reach Ocheretune during the siege of Avdiivka. So, and the same is true now as back then. Ukraine will more than likely be forced to rely on Salane and then bring in troops and reinforcements and supplies and what have you via road that will gridlock the road system. They will have to overcome mud seasons and what have you, and it takes longer. It requires more fuel. It requires more time to get troops and what have you from Salane to the front line compared to getting it shipped in via train to Ocheretune and then drive it down. So this here has effectively nullified Ocheretune as a supply hub, and Ukraine will now have to rely on Salane, and that will slow down everything. So you will have less troops and less ammunition reaching the front line in time. And this obviously works in Russia's favor. So now so it makes perfect sense for Russia to make this push to deny Ukraine to make full use of Ochiritsune. So most of the stuff will probably be shipped to Solani, and then they were gonna have to drive along the highway here, and it's gonna get gridlocked, and Russian drones will be able to fly around all over the place looking for targets, and yeah, Ukraine is in a bad spot. I had hoped that they could have held this small village here. That would have, you know, helped Ukraine a lot, but they lost it, and that basically, to me, felt like they have now lost this section of the front line. Russia can now begin to exploit this situation in full. Uh, Now that Ukraine has to rely on reinforcements from this far away instead of just bringing them down this way. And if we take a look at the other maps we have, not just deep state, but ISW map over here and the Ukraine control map over here, we can see here they, they show us the same thing, that Russia's pushed up towards Chertina. They've taken this small village, and the supply line leading to Berdichi is more basically cut. I mean, you can tell here the Ukrainians can't rely on this road at all. A bit disturbing is that ISW claims that Russia has pushed across, and they grabbed all of Berdichi and they pushed in here and are now in a position to cut the supplies to Semenivka. They're even saying that Semenivka is in, or that Russia is claiming that they have Semenivka. And you can see here it's all in the gray area, the no man's land. So chances are that Russia is actually pushing Ukraine back, and Semenivka may or may not be able to receive the supplies they need to hold. So this road is definitely cut off, so Berdichi has fallen or will fall, and the same is true for Semenivka, probably. And even if this road is open, they can't go all the way in to reach the troops. Seems to be the case. So Russia has effectively, just by taking this village, they cut off these supplies, and then they could make a push towards Chertina, and that slowed down everything for Ukraine, and now Russia can begin to push into Semenivka, just because it takes more time to get reinforcements and supplies to the front line. So what does it all mean? Well, what it means is that Russia will probably focus on going down this way, bypassing Berdichi and coming down, or taking Berdichi and then going in on Semenivka from the north, and making sure that no supplies can reach the front line. And once that happens, they can then follow the road and the river system down this way to push Ukraine back towards Umansky. So it doesn't look good. If they get past here, as it appears that they may be doing, Semenivka will fall in a couple of days or a couple of weeks maybe. And up here, if they continue having successes reaching Ochiritsune, they can obviously move on into this small town here and push on towards Solovyov, and grabbing this village opened up everything for the Russians, and things are looking bad for Ukraine at the moment. So all we can really hope is for American aid to reach Ukraine as fast as possible, so that Ukraine can begin to hammer the Russians with artillery once again, because that is what is more than likely going on here. Ukraine does not have enough artillery to prevent the Russians from pushing into Ukrainian held territory. And there is more to Ochiritsune than that small village. to the southeast of it. Like I said, there's a train station in Ochrytuna that Ukraine has relied upon to bring in reinforcements to the front line, and that is the reason why Russia wants to push into Ochrytuna in order to secure the town. Because as you can see here, we have Ochrytuna, down here Avdiivka. What we have is from Russian occupied territory, we have a railroad going straight through Avdiivka, past the big coke plant, all the way up to Ochrytuna, and of course beyond into Ukrainian controlled territory. And this railroad is what Russia wants to make use of. They want to rely on this railroad for logistical, sorry, it's in the middle of the night, logistical purposes, so that they can ship troops all the way up to Ochrytuna and use Ochrytuna as a forward base of operations. And I mean, take a look at this. This is Ochrytuna. Here you have the railroad, the train station, what have you. I mean, you have multiple tracks. And take a look at these trains, these train carts. This is a big train station that you can rely upon to bring in large amounts of resources, ammunition, supplies, food, medicine, troops, and vehicles, and what have you. So if you have Ochrytuna, I mean, you can well and truly utilize the railway to bring in all the troops and all the supplies you need. So what is it that Russia wants? They want Ochrytuna. This is more important to the Russians than grabbing Berdychi and Semenivka, and that is why, like I said, this small village here was super important, but Ukraine didn't manage to hold it, unfortunately. So what happens if Russia grabs this town? Well, then they can rely on the railroad to bring in all the troops and manpower and what have you that they need to expand from the town and use it as a forward base of operations, a fortification that they can use as base for launching attacks into Ukrainian territory. They can push north towards Arkhangelsk, right along these valleys, and reach Kalinove. They can push along the railroad and the highway to reach Novo Alexandrivka and push on in the long run towards Prores, Lusovatsk, and so forth. And if they have here, then they can obviously continue along this highway here to Solovyove, Sokil, Yenenevka, and what have you. So this is the main goal for Russians, and unfortunately they are close to getting into Ochrytuna, and if they grab it, they can start expanding in multiple directions. So down here, this is just tying up Ukrainian forces. Russia, they are pushing hard where they want to go, where they need to go, and at the moment Ukraine is unable to hold. Russia has pushed through here, cutting supplies down to Berdychi and Semenivka, and they are now pushing into Ochrytuna and securing the railroad here to be used to bring troops to the front line. And that's it. A grim, dark look at the front line west of Avdiivka. Doesn't look good for the Ukrainians. Russia is unfortunately on a roll, and I don't know. It doesn't look good at the moment. Hopefully, American aid will reach Ukraine soon enough. Hopefully, Ukraine will get all the artillery ammunition that the Czechs are trying to gather for them, and I think that is what is needed to halt the Russian tide and hold the Russian advance at bay at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, not much else to say about it, unfortunately. And with that, go på marsch, Ukraine. Give them hell.